Nestled amongst the winding rivers and back roads of northeast Missouri is located Palmyra, a small country town, an unlikely setting for one of the most heinous and pathetic crimes known among civilized men, the Palmyra Massacre.
Ready! Take aim!
Hi, and welcome to Palmyra, Missouri. The events of the October 18th, 1862 massacre began to unfold in the summer of that same year when Colonel Joseph C. Porter,
A native of Lewis County, who rode with former Governor and General Sterling Pep Price in southern Missouri and northern Arkansas during the Civil War to defend their homes, rights, and a soil made fruitful by their labor.
Number one, he was looking for recruits. He thought this was a good recruiting ground. Another reason was he wanted supplies. An army marches on its stomach, and he needed food and supplies. One of the third big reason that's not really often discussed is they had to take a loyalty oath. And these loyalty oaths, stated that the individual would be a good, upstanding member of the community, would not take up arms against the United States of America. So he thought if he could burn the loyalty oaths, that would help him in his recruiting effort.
While in northeast Missouri, Porter recruited men from Marion, Lewis, Shelby, Rawls, and Monroe counties.
Porter then took it upon himself to turn his ragtag band of nearly 350 farmers and Southern sympathizers into a guerrilla unit. He set up his headquarters at Whaley's Mill, which is in northern Marion County and southern Lewis County, only a few miles away from his childhood home. Porter's efforts to suppress Union activity in northeast Missouri and filter troops down to southeast Missouri to fight with General Price were seemingly successful. On September 11th, Porter caught wind that General John McNeil,
A federal officer who had suppressed the activity of the guerrillas in northeast Missouri, was not present in Palmyra, and only a small garrison of Union men were patrolling the town. Porter ordered a rendezvous on the North Fabius River, which is about 5 miles north of Palmyra. His intentions were to detract Union attention away from the Missouri River, release Southern sympathizers held in the jail, and destroy any records held in the Provost Marshal's office, including oaths of any of Porter's men.
the night before Porter's raid in Palmyra and the capture of the Flower City, the men camped about 1 mile west of town next to this spring to make use of its fresh water and its ideal location next to Palmyra. At dawn the next morning, the 400-strong guerrilla band crept into town, leaving every fifth man to guard the horses in these same woods. It was said that the line of men stretched nearly half a mile. Once in town, the men scattered all throughout the town, Courthouse Square, and all up and down the streets. Porter gave Lieutenant Washburn, who was overseeing the jail, an opportunity to surrender, with 10 minutes to think on it. Washburn then boldly replied, "We will fight a little while, and only surrender when you compel with us."
Many men hid out in the Methodist and Presbyterian churches, no more than a block away from the old jail. Once the firing began, it did not take long until the Union occupying the jail realized it was a lost fight.
Atop Marion County's second courthouse sat a large copper ball, which many of Porter's men took an opportunity to practice their marksmanship on. It now rests in Marion County's third and present courthouse. Once Lieutenant Washburn surrendered, many of the men moved on to the Provost Marshal's office, where they took pleasure in burning their own oaths,
stating they would not take up arms against the U.S. government.
After the raid, basically a lot of people were afraid to express themselves, afraid that something might happen to them.
A squad led under the command of Captain J.W. Shattuck made a surprise visit to an elderly man of Palmyra named Andrew Alsman. Alsman, editor of the local newspaper, spy, and Union sympathizer, was looked upon in this community as a dirty scoundrel.
The story is that Alsman, with Porter, headed out of town. At some point, Colonel Porter decided that Alsman was a little bit too much. He was dead weight in the camp. So what Colonel Porter do, he let Alsman handpick a guard, a detail, if you will, of men to escort him safely back to the limits or the city limits of Palmyra or the nearest Union lines. Alsman and the detail guard of, it is said, 5 to 6 men left camp, and that's the last Alsman was ever seen. According to legend, according to the story, Alsman was told to dismount from his horse. A prayer was offered, he was made to kneel down, and he was executed somewhere in the woods.
When McNeil heard of Porter's rebellious act in Palmyra, he took the first train back from Monticello. When Alsman was never to return, the Unionists of Palmyra and Marion County were outraged. McNeil had his back against the wall and was forced to take action.
On October 8, 1862, this letter was posted in and around Palmyra. Joseph C. Porter, Sir, Andrew Alsman, an aged citizen of Palmyra and a non-combatant, having been carried away from his home by a band of persons unlawfully arrayed against the peace and good order of the state of Missouri. This is to notify you that unless said Andrew Alsman is returned unharmed to his family within 10 days from date, 10 men who have belonged to your band and unlawfully sworn by you to carry arms against that government of the United States and who are now in custody will be shot as a meet reward for their crimes. Your prompt attention to this will save much suffering. Yours and etc. W. R. Strong, Provost Marshal District, Northeast Missouri. Many people believed that Strawn and McNeil were bluffing, yet apprehension grew in the Marion County jails. 10 men in the Marion County jails who had been imprisoned for nothing more than standing up for what they believed in were to be shot as a result of Alsman's disappearance.
I should like to see you all once more, but we will soon meet in another world. Eliza Lake.
I hope that God, for Christ's sake, will pardon my sins and save me. John Wade.
A sentence was read to me a few moments ago that I am to be shot at 1 o'clock this evening, and all I can say is goodbye. Hiram Smith.
They took the 10 men from the Palmyra jail, 10 innocent men, and took them and loaded them up on wagons with their caskets and took them to the old fairgrounds. They just didn't think it would happen, but it did happen. And war is, as today, it's always thought of being somewhere else besides on your front doorstep.
Ready! Take aim! Fire!
The deed was done. Of the 10 men, only 3 were killed outright. 1 wasn't even hit at all. Amidst the cries and the groans of the wounded, a second firing squad was called up, armed with pistols, and they went from body to body, from victim to victim, if you will, and fired pistol rounds into them until they were dead.
The 10 men who were shot were as follows: Captain Thomas Seidner, Monroe County; Willis Baker, Thomas Humston, Morgan Bixler, John Y. McFeeters, and Hiram Smith, all of Lewis County, as well as Herbert Hudson, John M. Wade, Marion Lair of Rawls County, and Elijah Lake of Scotland County.
There was a lot of enlistments for the Southern cause right after that because they thought the Southern had kind of made it, kind of bounced back in the efforts of the war after the Palmyra jail was captured.
The cannons no longer thunder and the guns no longer roar, but serving as a constant reminder in the courthouse square stands this monument, dedicated to 10 men who gave up their lives for an act which they had no part in.